The storm hit without warning. Rain hammered against the windows of the small medical clinic, and wind howled through the valley like a wounded animal. Dae-sung looked up from his desk, frowning at the sudden darkness outside. The settlement's alarm system began to wail. He grabbed his emergency kit and ran outside. The rain soaked him instantly, cold water streaming down his face. Other colonists were shouting, pointing at the sky. Through the thick clouds, Dae-sung saw something burning as it fell. The object was massive, trailing fire and smoke. It hit the ground 3 kilometers away with an impact that shook the earth beneath his feet. Dae-sung climbed into his medical transport and drove toward the crash site. The vehicle bounced over rough terrain, its headlights cutting through the storm. He had been a doctor on this frontier colony for 5 years. He had treated injuries from mining accidents, equipment failures, and animal attacks. But he had never seen anything like this. When he reached the crash site, he stopped the transport and stared. The spacecraft was unlike anything humans built. Its hull was smooth and dark, covered in strange symbols that still glowed faintly despite the damage. Pieces of the ship were scattered across the rocky ground, some still burning even in the rain. Dae-sung approached carefully. The air smelled wrong, metallic and sharp. He checked his scanner for radiation and toxic gases. The readings were high but not immediately dangerous. He pulled on protective gloves and activated his flashlight. Near the center of the wreckage, he found her. She was tall, nearly 2 meters, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in his flashlight beam. Her face was humanoid, but distinctly alien, with high cheekbones and large eyes that were currently closed. Intricate markings covered her neck and arms, glowing with a soft purple light. She wore armor that had once been beautiful, but was now cracked and burned. She was alive. Barely. Dae-sung knelt beside her and checked for vital signs. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Her heartbeat was strange, irregular to his human senses, but steady. Then he saw the wound on her left arm. A deep gash ran from her shoulder to her elbow, and violet blood was pooling beneath her. He did not think. He just acted. Dae-sung had been a medic in the military before coming to this colony. He had learned that all bleeding stopped eventually, either because you stopped it or because the patient ran out of blood. He refused to let this stranger die. He opened his emergency kit and pulled out universal coagulant spray, designed to work on most carbon-based life forms. He sprayed it directly into the wound, watching as it foamed and began to slow the bleeding. He wrapped pressure bandages around her arm, working quickly despite the rain and his shaking hands. The woman's eyes opened suddenly. They were golden, bright even in the darkness, and they fixed on Dae-sung with sharp awareness. Her hand moved faster than he could react, grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. She spoke, her voice weak but commanding, in a language he had never heard before. Dae-sung raised his free hand slowly, showing he was not a threat. "I am a doctor," he said, even though he knew she could not understand. "I am trying to help you." She stared at him for a long moment. Her golden eyes searched his face, looking for something. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her because her grip on his wrist loosened. She spoke again, softer this time, and her eyes closed. She had passed out again. Dae-sung finished bandaging her arm and checked the rest of her body for injuries. She had burns on her legs and several bruised ribs, but the arm wound was the most serious. He needed to get her back to the clinic where he had proper equipment. He managed to lift her, surprised by how heavy she was despite her lean appearance. Her armor and dense bone structure made her much heavier than a human of similar size. He carried her to his transport and laid her carefully in the back, covering her with thermal blankets. As he walked back to close the transport doors, something caught his attention. Near the wrecked spacecraft, lights were moving in the distance. More vehicles were approaching, and they were not from the colony. Dae-sung's blood went cold. Whoever had shot her down was coming to finish the job. He ran to the driver's seat and started the engine. The transport roared to life, and he drove away from the crash site as fast as the vehicle could manage. He did not use the headlights, navigating by memory and the faint glow of his dashboard. Behind him, the lights grew brighter. They were searching the wreckage. The clinic was dark when he arrived. Daesung backed the transport into the loading bay and closed the doors. He carried the unconscious woman inside and placed her on his surgical table. Under the bright lights, he could see her more clearly. Her silver skin had a pearlescent quality, and the glowing markings on her body formed patterns that seemed deliberate, almost like tattoos or ritual scars. He removed the temporary bandages and examined the wound properly. It was deep, cutting through muscle and possibly damaging something important. He could not be sure about her anatomy, but he understood wounds. He sterilized his instruments and began to work. For 2 hours, Daesung cleaned and stitched the gash on her arm. He used medical nanites, tiny robots designed to promote healing, and applied synthetic skin over the stitches. Her blood was strange, more viscous than human blood, but his equipment worked well enough. When he finished, he sat down heavily in a chair. Exhaustion washed over him. The woman lay unconscious on the table, her breathing steady. The glowing marks on her skin pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Daesung looked at her face. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, but more than that, she looked tired. Even unconscious, there was tension in her features, as if she carried a great weight. He wondered who she was and why someone wanted her dead badly enough to shoot down her ship. He wondered if he had just made a terrible mistake by saving her, but as he looked at the bandaged wound on her arm, he knew he would make the same choice again. Outside, the storm continued to rage. Somewhere in the darkness, people were hunting. And in his small clinic on the edge of human space, Daesung had become the only thing standing between a mysterious stranger and death. He stood and locked all the doors. Then he sat down beside the table to wait for her to wake up, his emergency pistol resting in his lap. Whatever came next, he would face it. He was a doctor, and this was his patient. That was all that mattered. The sun rose slowly over the colony, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Daesung had not slept. He sat in his chair watching his patient breathe, listening to every sound outside the clinic. The storm had passed, leaving puddles and debris scattered across the settlement. The woman on the table stirred. Her golden eyes opened, alert and focused. She looked around the room, taking in the medical equipment, the white walls, and finally, Daesung himself. She tried to sit up, wincing as pain shot through her injured arm. Daesung stood and gently pressed her shoulder. "Do not move too fast," he said. "Your wound needs time to heal." She understood his tone, if not his words. She looked at her bandaged arm, then back at him. Slowly, carefully, she spoke in heavily accented human language. "Where am I?" Daesung was surprised. "You speak my language?" "Little," she said, her voice strained. "Learned from transmissions. Listening." She touched her bandaged arm. "You helped me." "I am a doctor," Daesung said simply. "It is what I do." Before she could respond, the sound of engines rumbled outside. Daesung moved to the window and looked out. 3 military vehicles had entered the settlement, their armor painted in colors he did not recognize. Alien soldiers climbed out, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. The woman on the table tensed. "They found me," she whispered. "You must hide. They will kill anyone who helped me." Daesung looked at her determined face, then at the soldiers outside. He made a decision. "Can you walk?" She nodded, though pain was clear in her eyes. Daesung helped her off the table and led her to the back of the clinic. He had a medical transport there, larger than his usual vehicle, used for evacuating multiple patients. He opened the back doors and gestured inside. Under the blankets, he said. "Stay quiet." She climbed in without argument, and he covered her completely with emergency blankets and medical supplies. Just as he closed the doors, someone pounded on the front entrance of the clinic. Dae-sung walked to the door and opened it. A human man stood there, wearing the uniform of a colonial security officer, but his eyes were cold. And he had the bearing of someone who served a different master. "I am Taemin," the man said. "I work with the Velkrin forces. They are looking for a fugitive from their empire. We traced her ship to this area. Have you seen anyone unusual?" Dae-sung kept his face neutral. "There was a crash last night during the storm. I went to check it, but the ship was destroyed. No survivors that I could find." Taemin studied him with suspicious eyes. "You went alone to an alien crash site? That was foolish." "I am a doctor," Dae-sung said. "If someone was hurt, they would need help." "And you found no one?" "Only wreckage." Taemin stepped closer, his hand resting on the weapon at his hip. "The Velkrin are very interested in finding this fugitive. She is dangerous, a criminal who betrayed the Empire. Anyone helping her would be considered an enemy." "I understand," Dae-sung said calmly. "But as I said, I found no one alive." For a long moment, Taemin said nothing. Then he stepped back. "The Velkrin will search the area. Do not interfere with Imperial business." He turned and walked away, but Dae-sung could feel the man's suspicion like a weight on his shoulders. He waited until the vehicles left before returning to the transport. He opened the doors and found the woman sitting up, her hand on a piece of medical equipment she had clearly been prepared to use as a weapon. "They are gone for now," Dae-sung said, "but they will be back." She climbed out of the transport, favoring her injured arm. "You lied for me. Why?" Dae-sung shrugged. "You needed help. That man wanted to hurt you. The choice was simple." "Simple," she repeated, as if the word was foreign to her. "Nothing is simple in my world." "Then your world is too complicated," Dae-sung said. He gestured toward the clinic. "Come, let me check your wound properly." She followed him inside, and he had her sit on an examination chair. As he removed the bandages, he spoke quietly. "What is your name?" She hesitated. "Hana." "I am Dae-sung." "Dae-sung," she repeated, testing the sounds. "You are brave, Dae-sung. Foolish but brave." He smiled slightly as he examined the wound. The nanites had done their work well. The gash was closing, though it would leave a scar. "People have said that before. Now tell me the truth. Why are they hunting you?" Hana looked at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "I was part of the Imperial Honor Guard. I discovered plans for a betrayal. A plot against the highest authority in our empire. When I tried to warn others, those involved tried to kill me. I escaped, but my ship was damaged. They shot me down." "A conspiracy," Dae-sung said, applying fresh bandages. "So you are a fugitive because you tried to do the right thing?" "Yes." "And these Velkrin, they are the conspirators?" "Some of them," Hana said. "Others are simply following orders, believing lies they have been told about me." Dae-sung finished the bandaging and stepped back. "This wound will heal, but you should not fight or strain your arm for at least a week. Can you do that?" Hana almost laughed. "I may not have a choice, but they will not stop hunting me. I need to leave this world before they bring more forces." "The colony has a small spaceport," Dae-sung said. "But Taemin and his people will be watching it." "Then I am trapped." Dae-sung thought for a moment. Then he went to his desk and pulled out a communication device. "I know someone who might help. She is a smuggler, not exactly legal, but she has her own ship." "Why would she help me?" "Because she owes me a favor," Dae-sung said. "I saved her partner's life 2 years ago. She said she would repay the debt when I needed it." Hana watched him make the call. When he finished, she spoke softly. "You are risking everything for someone you do not know. your life, your home, your safety. Why? Dae-sung looked at her seriously. Because you were bleeding and needed help. Because those men want to kill you for trying to stop evil. Because it is the right thing to do. He paused. In my experience, the right thing is usually the hard thing. That does not make it less right. Hana stared at him, and something changed in her expression. It was subtle, a softening around her eyes, a relaxation in her shoulders. Your people are strange, she said quietly. In my empire, compassion is seen as weakness. Then your empire needs to learn better, Dae-sung said. Before Hana could respond, an explosion rocked the settlement. Both of them ran to the window. In the distance, fire and smoke rose from the southern sector. Alarms began to wail. Dae-sung's communication device buzzed. He answered it and listened, his expression growing grim. He ended the call and looked at Hana. That was a distraction. Taemin's forces just sealed off the spaceport. They know you are here somewhere and they are tightening the net. Hana's hand went to her waist, where a weapon should have been but was not. Then we fight. You are wounded and unarmed, Dae-sung said, and I am a doctor, not a soldier. What do you suggest? Dae-sung thought quickly. We wait for nightfall. My contact will arrive then. Until that time, we hide and hope Taemin does not find us. Hana nodded slowly. Very well. I will trust you, Dae-sung. Those words, simple and direct, carried weight. Dae-sung realized that this woman, whoever she truly was, did not give trust easily. He had earned something precious without meaning to. They spent the day in hiding, listening to announcements from the colonial government ordering all citizens to report suspicious activity. Dae-sung watched Hana closely. Despite her injury, she moved with grace and purpose. She studied everything in the clinic with sharp intelligence, asking questions about human medicine and technology. As evening approached, Dae-sung prepared supplies for their escape. He packed medical equipment, food, and water. Hana watched him work, her golden eyes thoughtful. When this is over, she said quietly, if I survive, I will remember what you did. I will repay this debt. Dae-sung looked up at her and smiled. Just survive. That will be payment enough. Outside, the sun began to set, and darkness crept across the colony. Somewhere in that darkness, hunters prowled. But inside the clinic, a doctor and a fugitive warrior prepared to face whatever came next, bound together by a simple act of compassion in an uncaring universe. The night brought new terrors. Dae-sung stood at his window, watching as massive shapes descended from the clouds. Warships, larger than anything in the human fleet, took position in orbit above the colony. Their hulls gleamed with an unnatural light, and their weapons bristled like the spines of some deep-sea predator. Hana stood beside him, her face pale. "A battle cruiser," she whispered. "They sent an entire battle group for one person." "They really want you dead," Dae-sung observed. "They really do not want me to reach certain people," Hana corrected. "What I know could destroy them all." The communication systems across the colony activated simultaneously. A voice spoke, cold and mechanical, in both the alien language and translated human speech. "Attention, citizens of this human settlement. The Kyle Dominion demands the immediate surrender of a fugitive criminal hiding among you. You have 12 hours to comply. Failure to cooperate will result in severe consequences." Dae-sung's device buzzed. He answered and heard the panicked voice of Governor Ji-won. "All medical personnel are to report to the Central Administration Building immediately. This is not optional." He ended the call and looked at Hana. "I have to go. If I do not, they will come looking for me." "It is a trap," Hana said. "Probably," Dae-sung agreed. "But if I hide, Taemin will know I am involved. Better to show my face and act normal." "Then I am going with you." "Absolutely not. Your arm is still healing and you will be recognized immediately. Hana grabbed his shoulder with her good hand. Her grip was firm, but not painful. Listen to me, Dae-sung. I have been a warrior for many years. I know when prey is being separated from the herd. They will interrogate you. They may hurt you to learn where I am. I will not let that happen. I can handle an interrogation, Dae-sung said, though he was not entirely sure that was true. Before they could argue further, someone pounded on the clinic door. Both of them froze. Dae-sung gestured for Hana to hide, but she shook her head and moved to stand beside the door, ready to fight if necessary. Dae-sung opened the door to find Minho, the colony's chief administrator. The older man looked exhausted and frightened. Dae-sung, thank goodness. I need to speak with you privately. Dae-sung stepped aside to let him in. Minho entered and immediately saw Hana. His eyes went wide, and he stumbled backward. That is her. That is the fugitive. Minho, wait, Dae-sung said, but the administrator was already reaching for his communication device. Hana moved faster than Dae-sung thought possible. Despite her injured arm, she crossed the room and gently but firmly took the device from Minho's hand. Please do not, she said in her accented human speech. I mean you no harm. Minho looked between them, trembling. They will destroy the colony if we do not hand her over. 30,000 people live here. I cannot let them all die for one alien fugitive. Sit down, Dae-sung said firmly. Both of you. Let us talk about this like reasonable people. They sat around Dae-sung's desk, Minho nervous and sweating, Hana watchful and tense. Dae-sung poured water for everyone and took a deep breath. Minho, this woman is being hunted because she tried to stop a conspiracy. She is not a criminal. She is someone who stood up against corruption and nearly died for it. I do not care about alien politics, Minho said. I care about the people in this colony. Hana spoke quietly. I understand your fear, but the people hunting me are liars and traitors. If you give me to them, they will still punish this colony for sheltering me. They will make an example of you to show what happens when humans interfere in Dominion affairs. She is right, Dae-sung added. Taemin does not strike me as someone who forgives and forgets. Minho put his head in his hands. Then what do we do? We have no military here, just a few security officers and some mining equipment. We cannot fight a battlecruiser. We do not fight, Dae-sung said. We smuggle her out. I have a contact coming tonight with a ship. Sun-hee? Minho looked up. The smuggler? Even if she gets past the blockade, the Dominion will punish us anyway. Not if I am far away when they search, Hana said. If I disappear completely, they will have no proof you helped me. You can claim I escaped on my own. Minho shook his head. Taemin already suspects Dae-sung. He will interrogate him. Then we need to convince Taemin that I am somewhere else, Dae-sung said, thinking quickly. What if we stage a scene at the crash site? Make it look like I went back and she ambushed me. I can be injured enough to be believable but not seriously hurt. That is insane, Minho said. It might work, Hana said slowly. If they believe you are a victim, not an accomplice, they will not question you as harshly. They spent the next hour planning. Minho, despite his fear, agreed to help. He would spread rumors that Dae-sung had returned to the crash site to salvage medical equipment and had not returned. Meanwhile, Dae-sung and Hana would make their way to the spaceport, where Sun-hee would be waiting. As they prepared to leave, an explosion echoed across the colony. Then another. The building shook and dust fell from the ceiling. Dae-sung ran to the window. In the southern sector, buildings were burning. Velkrin soldiers were going door to door, dragging people into the streets. He grabbed his binoculars and focused on the scene. His blood ran cold when he saw what they were doing. They were rounding up anyone who looked like they might have helped an outsider. Families were being separated. Some people were being thrown into transport vehicles. Others were being beaten for answers they did not have. They are not waiting 12 hours, Hana said, looking over his shoulder. They are destroying the colony now. Minho's device buzzed. He answered it, listened, and went pale. They are demanding that all medical personnel report immediately. Anyone who does not comply will be considered an accomplice. Dae-sung, they know it was you. Dae-sung felt fear curl in his stomach, but he pushed it down. Then we move now. Minho, go to the administration building. Tell them I ran, that you do not know where I went. Act terrified. It will not be hard. Minho nodded and hurried out. Dae-sung turned to Hana. Can you fight if you need to? She picked up a metal rod from his medical supplies, testing its weight. I can fight, but Dae-sung, if they catch us, they will kill you. You should let me go alone. We have been through this, Dae-sung said, grabbing his emergency pack. I am not leaving you. They slipped out the back of the clinic into the darkness. The colony was in chaos. People were running, some toward their homes, others toward the supposed safety of the central district. Fires burned in several sectors, and the sound of Velcrin weapons echoed through the streets. Dae-sung led Hana through back alleys and maintenance tunnels. He had lived here for 5 years and knew every shortcut. They avoided Velcrin patrols twice, pressing against walls and holding their breath as armored soldiers marched past. At one point, they came across a family trapped by rubble from a collapsed building. A young girl was crying, her leg pinned. Hana grabbed Dae-sung's arm, ready to pull him away, but he shook his head and ran to help. We do not have time, Hana hissed. There is always time to help, Dae-sung said, already examining the child's leg. He worked quickly, using a metal beam as a lever while Hana, despite her injury, helped lift the rubble. They freed the girl and her family, who ran off into the darkness without a word of thanks. Dae-sung did not need thanks. He just needed them to survive. Your people are mad, Hana said as they continued toward the spaceport. You risk everything for strangers. Is that not what you did? Dae-sung asked. Risked everything to expose a conspiracy? To save people you did not even know would be harmed? Hana had no answer to that. They reached the spaceport just as a small, battered freighter was landing. The ship was old and scarred, but its engines hummed with power. The cargo ramp lowered and a woman appeared, her expression hard and alert. Sun-hee, Dae-sung called. The smuggler saw them and waved them forward. Hurry! Taemin's forces are surrounding the port. We have maybe 5 minutes before they lock it down completely. They ran toward the ship. Dae-sung's lungs burned and Hana was breathing hard, her injured arm clutched against her side. They were almost to the ramp when searchlights blazed to life, pinning them in place. Taemin's voice boomed from speakers. Stop where you are. You are both under arrest by order of the Kale Dominion. Dae-sung looked at Hana, and she looked back at him. In her golden eyes he saw determination, and something else, something that might have been regret. Run, she said. Together, he replied. They ran. The plasma bolt hit the ground between Dae-sung and Hana, sending up a spray of molten concrete. They dove in opposite directions as more shots followed. Taemin stood on an elevated platform with a squad of Velcrin soldiers, their weapons trained on the fleeing pair. Sun-hee shouted from her ship, Move, or we all die! Dae-sung scrambled to his feet and ran. Behind him he heard Hana cry out. He turned and saw her on one knee, her wounded arm bleeding through the bandages. A Velcrin soldier was advancing on her, weapon raised. He did not think. He just moved. Dae-sung threw himself at the soldier, tackling him from the side. They both went down hard. The Velcrin was stronger, but Dae-sung fought with desperate fury. He managed to grab the soldier's weapon and tried to wrench it away. Then pain exploded in his shoulder. White-hot agony shot through his body as a plasma bolt burned through flesh and muscle. Dae-sung fell, gasping, his vision blurring. Through the haze of pain, he saw Hana. She was standing now, and something had changed. Her eyes blazed with golden fire. Despite her injuries, she moved like death itself. She took the weapon from Dae-sung's trembling hands and turned on the Velcrin soldiers. What followed was brutal and efficient. Hana fought with techniques Dae-sung had never seen, using the Velcrin's own weapons against them. She moved between them like a dancer, each strike precise and devastating. Within seconds, 4 soldiers were on the ground, disarmed or unconscious. Taemin backed away, fear finally showing on his face. "You cannot escape," he said. "More forces are coming. Then they will find their brothers defeated by a wounded warrior," Hana said coldly. She turned to Dae-sung, and the cold mask fell away. "Can you walk?" Dae-sung tried to stand, but his legs would not cooperate. The plasma wound had damaged nerves. "I cannot feel my legs," he said through gritted teeth. Hana picked him up with one arm, her injured arm hanging at her side. She was incredibly strong. She carried him to the ship as more plasma bolts flew past them. Sun-hee provided covering fire from the cargo ramp, her own weapon spitting energy at their pursuers. They made it inside, and Sun-hee slammed the controls. The ramp closed as the ship's engines roared to life. The freighter lifted off, shaking violently as Velcrin fire hammered its shields. Inside the cargo hold, Hana laid Dae-sung on the floor. His shoulder was a mess of burned flesh and fabric. Blood was spreading across his chest. "Sun-hee!" Hana shouted. "He needs medical attention now." "Medical bay is through that door," Sun-hee's voice came from the cockpit. "But we have bigger problems. 2 Velcrin fighters are on our tail, and the battlecruiser is powering weapons. Hold on!" The ship lurched as Sun-hee threw it into evasive maneuvers. Hana dragged Dae-sung through the door into a small medical bay. It was nothing like his clinic, just a few basic supplies and an old surgical table. She lifted him onto the table and began cutting away his burned clothing. Her hands shook slightly as she examined the wound. "I am not a healer," she said quietly. "I have only field training." "Then we are both going to learn something new today," Dae-sung managed to say, though each word was agony. "In my pack, there is a medical scanner. Use it to see the damage." Hana found the device and ran it over his shoulder. She studied the readings, her face troubled. "The bolt damaged muscle and nerves. There is internal bleeding." "Nanites," Dae-sung gasped. "Inject them directly into the wound. They will stop the bleeding and begin repairs." Hana's hands steadied as she worked. She found the nanite injector in his pack and carefully administered it. Then she began cleaning the wound with surprising gentleness. As she worked, she spoke softly in her own language. Dae-sung did not understand the words, but they sounded like a prayer. The ship shuddered as weapons fire struck the shields. Sun-hee's voice came over the intercom. "Shields at 40%. I am trying to reach the asteroid field. If we can lose them there, we might survive." Hana continued working on Dae-sung's wound. She found a Kale medical device in her armor, a small crystal that glowed with soft light. She held it over the plasma burn, and Dae-sung felt warmth spread through his shoulder. The pain began to fade. "What is that?" he asked. "Healing crystal," Hana said. "It accelerates cellular repair. I was saving it for myself, but you need it more." "Your arm," Dae-sung protested weakly. "My arm can wait. You took a plasma bolt meant for me." As she worked, the ship's movements became more violent. They were in the asteroid field now, weaving between massive rocks while Velcrin fighters pursued. One wrong move would smash them against stone. Sun-hee's piloting skills were impressive. She guided the battered freighter through impossible gaps, using the asteroids as cover. Behind them, one Velcrin fighter clipped a rock and exploded. The second was more cautious, staying back but still tracking them. In the medical bay, Hana finished treating Dae-sung's wound. The healing crystal had done its work. The pain was now a dull ache instead of screaming agony. He could feel his fingers again, which was a good sign. "Thank you," he said. Hana sat down heavily beside the table. Her own bandages were soaked with violet blood. The fight had reopened her wound. "You saved my life again," she said. "You should have run. You should have left me." "I do not leave people behind," Daesung said. He tried to sit up and managed it with Hana's help. "Now let me see your arm." "My arm is fine." "Your arm is bleeding through the bandages." "Let me see it." Hana reluctantly held out her arm. Daesung unwrapped the bandages and winced. The stitches had torn and the wound was angry and inflamed. "Why did you fight? I told you to rest this arm." "You were about to die," Hana said simply. Daesung cleaned the wound again and applied fresh nanites. As he worked, he noticed something. The markings on Hana's skin, the glowing symbols he had thought were decorative, formed patterns around the wound. They were pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. "What are these markings?" he asked. Hana hesitated. "They are cultural. All high-ranking members of my people bear them." "How high-ranking?" Before she could answer, Sunhee burst into the medical bay. She looked at Hana, then at the markings on her skin, and her eyes went wide. "Those are not warrior marks," she said. "I have dealt with the Kyle Dominion before. I have seen those symbols in historical records." She pointed at a specific pattern on Hana's neck. "That is a royal crest." Hana closed her eyes. "Sunhee, please." "Who are you really?" Sunhee demanded. "And do not lie to me. I am risking my ship and my life." Daesung looked between them, confused. "What does she mean, royal crest?" Sunhee turned to him. "Those marks mean she is not just high-ranking. She is royalty. Possibly very high royalty." Hana opened her eyes and looked directly at Daesung. "I did not lie to you. I just did not tell you everything. I am from the royal family, yes. But that does not change who I am or what I did." "How high?" Daesung asked quietly. "Princess? Duchess? What?" Hana met his gaze. "Higher." The ship shook as another impact struck the shields. Soon he cursed and ran back to the cockpit. Daesung and Hana were left alone in the medical bay, the truth hanging between them like a weight. "I need to know," Daesung said. "Who are you?" Hana looked away. "Does it matter? Here, in this ship, running for our lives, does it matter what title I held before?" "Yes," Daesung said, "because I deserve to know who I am helping, who I was shot for." Hana stood and walked to the small window. Outside, asteroids drifted past like ancient sentinels. "If I tell you, everything changes. You will see me differently. Try me." She turned to face him, and in her golden eyes he saw fear. Not fear of death or capture, but fear of rejection. "I am Hana Sul," she said quietly. "Sovereign of the Kyle Dominion, ruler of over 300 worlds. The person they tried to kill was not just a warrior or a princess. They tried to kill the empire itself." Daesung stared at her. The woman he had bandaged in the rain, the fugitive he had sheltered, the patient who had bled violet blood on his surgical table, was an empress. The most powerful person in an empire spanning hundreds of star systems, and he had told her to rest and not strain her arm. Despite everything, despite the pain and fear and danger, Daesung started to laugh. It hurt his wounded shoulder, but he could not stop. Hana looked alarmed. "Are you in shock? Did the wound damage your mind?" "No," Daesung said, still laughing. "I just realized that I have been ordering an empress around like a stubborn patient, and you actually listened." Hana's lips twitched into the smallest smile. "You were right. I should have rested my arm." The moment was broken by Sunhee's voice. "We have a problem. A big one. Multiple ships just appeared on scanners and they are not Velcrin." They rushed to the cockpit. On the view screen, a fleet of ships was emerging from faster-than-light travel. These were different from the Velkrin vessels, more elegant and powerful. At their center was a massive warship that made the Velkrin battlecruiser look like a toy. Hana's breath caught. The Royal Guard. They found me. The Royal Guard fleet moved with precision and power. Within minutes, they had positioned themselves between Sun He's battered freighter and the Velkrin forces. The massive warship at the center opened communication channels, broadcasting on all frequencies. A voice spoke in the Kyle language, deep and authoritative. Hana listened, her expression shifting from shock to something like relief. She reached for the communication panel. Sunhee, let me speak to them. Sunhee hesitated, then nodded. Go ahead. Hana activated the transmitter and spoke in her native tongue. The response was immediate. The Royal Guard ships adjusted their formation, creating a protective barrier around the small freighter. On the view screen, a figure appeared, a tall Kyle warrior in ornate armor, his face marked with respect and concern. He spoke, and Hana translated for Dae-sung and Sunhee. This is Commander Kyung-soo of the Royal Guard. He asked permission to come aboard to verify my identity and ensure my safety. Tell him yes, Sunhee said, because I really want to know what is happening. A small shuttle detached from the warship and approached. Sunhee guided it into the cargo bay using her ship's tractor beam. When the airlock opened, Commander Kyung-soo entered, followed by 2 guards. They wore armor that shimmered with protective energy fields, and their weapons were clearly advanced. Kyung-soo saw Hana and immediately dropped to one knee. His guards followed. They spoke in unison, formal words that Dae-sung did not understand but could feel the weight of. Hana responded, her voice stronger now, carrying authority. She gestured for them to rise. Kyung-soo stood and began speaking rapidly, his tone urgent. Hana's expression grew darker as she listened. Finally, she turned to Dae-sung and Sunhee. Commander Kyung-soo reports that the Dominion is in chaos. After I was attacked, my chief advisor Woo-jin declared me dead and seized the throne. He claims I was killed by human terrorists and has been using my supposed death to justify aggressive actions against your people and others who opposed his rise. A coup, Dae-sung said. Yes, half the Empire believes Woo-jin's lies and supports him. The other half, including the Royal Guard, refused to accept my death without proof. They have been searching for me while fighting a civil war against Woo-jin's forces. Kyung-soo spoke again, and Hana nodded. He says we must return to the capital immediately. The Dominion needs its true sovereign to end this conflict. Wait, Sunhee interrupted. You are telling me that she is the actual ruler of the Kale Dominion, the sovereign. I tried to tell you, Hana said. But yes. Sunhee looked at Dae-sung. You bandaged the empress of the largest empire in this sector, and you did not know? Dae-sung shrugged, which made his wounded shoulder protest. She was bleeding. That seemed more important than titles. Kyung-soo studied Dae-sung with interest. Through Hana's translation, he said, This is the human who saved your life? The one mentioned in your emergency beacon? Yes, Hana said. Dae-sung is a healer. He treated my wounds and protected me from Woo-jin's hunters, even though it meant putting himself in danger. Kyung-soo bowed to Dae-sung, a gesture of deep respect. Then the Dominion owes him a debt of honor. You will be rewarded, human. I do not want a reward, Dae-sung said. I just wanted to help. This statement seemed to puzzle Kyung-soo. He spoke to Hana in their language, and she responded. The commander's expression shifted to something like wonder. What did you tell him? Dae-sung asked. The truth, Hana said, that you helped me simply because it was right, that you expected nothing in return. It is a concept my people have forgotten in recent years. Kyung-soo gestured to his guards, who brought in medical equipment. He wants to treat our wounds properly, Hana translated. He says his medics are better equipped than this ship. The Royal Guard medics examined both Hana and Dae-sung. They worked efficiently, using technology far beyond anything Dae-sung had seen. His shoulder was healed completely within minutes, the damaged nerves regenerated. Hana's arm received similar treatment, the wound closing without a scar. As the medics worked, Kyung-soo explained the situation in more detail. Woo Jin had seized control of key military installations and government centers. He had declared martial law and was hunting down anyone loyal to Hana. The empire was divided, and civil war was spreading across dozens of worlds. "We need to return," Hana said, her voice heavy with responsibility. "Every day I am gone, more people die." "Your ships are damaged," Kyung-soo said through translation. "And Woo Jin controls the approaches to the capital. We need time to plan and gather forces." Hana shook her head. "We do not have time. Woo Jin will consolidate his power. We must move now." Dae-sung spoke up. "You cannot rush into a fight when you are not ready. You will just get yourself killed and then Woo Jin wins anyway." Hana looked at him sharply. "I cannot hide while my people suffer." "I am not saying hide. I am saying be smart." Dae-sung thought for a moment. "You need time to heal, gather allies, and plan. Where can you do that safely?" Kyung-soo and Hana spoke in their language, debating. Finally, Hana turned to Dae-sung. "Kyung-soo suggests we retreat to neutral territory, somewhere Woo Jin cannot easily reach." "Human space," Sun-hee said suddenly. "Take refuge in human territory. We are small and not very powerful, but we are outside Dominion jurisdiction. Woo Jin would have to start a war with humanity to reach you there." "Would your government agree to shelter me?" Hana asked. "After what Woo Jin did to that colony," Sun-hee said, "after attacking human civilians and destroying property, I think they would be happy to stick their finger in his eye." Dae-sung nodded. "It makes sense. You can contact your allies, coordinate resistance, and plan your return from safety. And human doctors and engineers could help repair your ships." Hana considered this. Then she spoke to Kyung-soo, who looked uncertain but eventually nodded. "Very well," she said. "We will request sanctuary from the human government, but I must offer something in return. My people do not accept charity." "What can you offer?" Dae-sung asked. Hana smiled, and for the first time, it was not the smile of a wounded fugitive but of a ruler. "Technology, trade routes, protection from other hostile species. An alliance between humanity and the Kale Dominion would change everything for your people. You would go from a minor species on the edge of explored space to a protected ally of the largest empire in the sector." "That is a significant offer," Sun-hee said. "It is a fair exchange," Hana replied. "My safety for humanity's advancement. Both sides benefit." The journey to human space took 3 days. Hana's fleet traveled with Sun-hee's small freighter at the center, protected by Royal Guard warships. During that time, Hana worked tirelessly, communicating with loyalist forces across the Dominion, coordinating resistance against Woo Jin. Dae-sung watched her transform. The wounded warrior he had treated became a sovereign, commanding fleets and making decisions that affected billions. But in quiet moments, she was still just Hana, asking him about human culture and medicine, curious about the species that had sheltered her. One evening, they stood together in the observation deck of the flagship. Stars streaked past as the fleet traveled at faster-than-light speeds. "Thank you," Hana said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing me as a person first. For not treating me like a title or a position." She paused. "In my empire, everyone sees the sovereign. They bow and show respect, but they do not see me. You did." "You were a patient," Dae-sung said. "Patients are people who need help. Everything else is just details." Hana laughed softly. "Just details. An empire, 300 worlds, trillions of subjects. Just details." "Pretty much," Dae-sung said with a smile. Hana looked at him seriously. "When this is over, When I reclaim my throne, I want you to come with me. As my personal physician and advisor, you have wisdom my court lacks." Daesung was silent for a moment. "That is a great honor, but I am just a colony doctor. I am not qualified to advise an empress." "You are more qualified than you know," Hana said. "You understand something fundamental that my people have forgotten. You understand compassion without expectation of reward. That is what leadership should be." Before Daesung could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Kyung-soo's voice came over the intercom, urgent and commanding. "What is it?" Daesung asked. Hana listened, her face paling. "Woojin's fleet. They found us. They are demanding I surrender, and they have threatened to destroy any human ships or stations that give me shelter." "Can we fight them?" "Our ships are damaged and outnumbered. We might win, but the cost would be high." Hana's hands clenched into fists. "And Woojin is threatening human space directly. If humanity shelters me, he will declare war on your entire species." Daesung felt cold fear settle in his stomach. Woojin was willing to start a war with humanity just to kill Hana. Millions of humans could die. On the view screen, Woojin's massive fleet appeared at the edge of sensor range. At its center was a command ship even larger than the Royal Guard flagship. A transmission came through and a face appeared on screen. Woojin was tall and elegant, his features sharp and cruel. He spoke in human language, clearly for Daesung and the humans' benefit. "Hana Sul, your pathetic rebellion ends now. Surrender yourself, and I will spare the humans who foolishly sheltered you. Refuse, and I will destroy their colonies one by one until they beg me to take you." Hana stepped forward, her voice cold and commanding. "Woojin, you are a traitor and a liar. I will never surrender to you." Woojin smiled. "Then watch as I burn human worlds. Their blood will be on your hands." The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Daesung saw something he had never seen before. Hana was afraid, truly afraid, not for herself, but for what her presence might cost humanity. "We cannot let him attack human space," she said quietly. "Then we fight," Daesung said, "together." The message reached Earth's government within hours. Woojin's threat was clear. Surrender Hana Sul, or face annihilation. The human leaders debated through the night, weighing the lives of billions against the principles they claimed to hold dear. Admiral Boram, commander of Earth's defense fleet, made the decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. She transmitted her response directly to Woojin's flagship. "The united human government does not bow to tyrants. We grant sovereign Hana Sul political asylum. If you want her, you will have to go through us." When Daesung heard the news, he felt pride mixed with terror. Humanity was choosing to stand against an empire that could crush them. It was brave and possibly suicidal. Hana stood beside him on the bridge of the Royal Guard flagship, watching the transmission. "Your people are either the bravest or the most foolish I have ever encountered," she said quietly. "Probably both," Daesung admitted. "I will not let them die for me," Hana said. "We must make our stand where we can protect human lives as well as fight Woojin." Kyung-soo suggested Starhold Station, humanity's largest military outpost at the edge of their controlled space. It was heavily armed for a human facility and positioned near several asteroid fields that could provide tactical advantages. The human government agreed, and both fleets converged on the station. Starhold was impressive by human standards, a massive ring of metal and composite armor housing 15,000 personnel. But compared to Kale warships, it looked fragile. Daesung arrived with Hana's fleet and immediately set to work in the station's medical bay, preparing for casualties. The medical facilities were basic compared to Royal Guard technology, but Daesung knew how to work with what he had. Hana sent Kale medical equipment and supplies, and Dae-sung spent hours learning how to integrate the two systems. His improvised solutions impressed even the Kale medics. "You have a gift for making things work," one of them told him through a translator. "Most humans would demand better equipment. You simply make do with what exists." "Frontier medicine," Dae-sung explained. "You learn to be creative or people die." While he worked, Hana and the military commanders planned their defense. The strategy was simple. Use the asteroid field to neutralize Wu Jin's numerical advantage, coordinate human and Kale forces for maximum efficiency, and hold long enough for more loyalist forces to arrive. It was a desperate plan, but it was all they had. 2 days later, Wu Jin's fleet arrived. His ships numbered over 200, a massive force that filled the view screens with their dark hulls. The human defenders numbered 30 ships, and the Royal Guard had 40 damaged vessels. They were outnumbered nearly 3-1. Wu Jin's voice broadcast across all channels. "This is your final chance, Hana Sul. Surrender now, and I will spare these humans and your misguided followers. Fight, and I will destroy everything you care about." Hana stood on the bridge of the flagship, Dae-sung beside her. She activated her own transmission, broadcasting to both fleets and throughout the Dominion. "People of the Kyle Dominion," she said, her voice strong and clear. "I am Hana Sul, your sovereign. I live, despite Wu Jin's attempts to murder me and steal the throne. He claims I was killed by humans, but the truth is that a human healer saved my life when Wu Jin's assassins left me to die. He asked for nothing in return. He risked everything simply because it was right." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Wu Jin represents everything our empire has become: cruel, selfish, and corrupt. These humans represent what we should be: brave, compassionate, and honorable. I stand with them today. I ask all loyal Kale to remember your oaths and stand with me." The transmission ended. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, across Wu Jin's fleet, ships began to change their formation. Not all of them, but enough. 20 vessels broke away from the enemy fleet and moved to join Hana's forces. Wu Jin's response was immediate and brutal. His remaining ships opened fire on the defectors, destroying 3 before the others could raise shields. Then he turned his fury on Starhold Station. The battle began with a massive barrage. Wu Jin's ships launched thousands of missiles and energy weapons at the station. Human and Kale ships moved to intercept, their shields flaring as they absorbed the attacks. The station's own weapons fired back, streams of kinetic projectiles and laser batteries cutting through space. In the medical bay, the first casualties began to arrive. Dae-sung worked frantically, treating burn wounds and radiation exposure. Human medics worked alongside Kyle healers, sharing knowledge and resources. The improvised integration of their technologies saved lives that would have been lost otherwise. Above them, the battle raged. Human ships were smaller and faster, using guerrilla tactics to harass Wu Jin's larger vessels. They would dart in, fire, and retreat into the asteroid field where the bigger ships could not easily follow. Kale's ships fought with disciplined precision, their advanced weapons picking off targets with deadly accuracy. But Wu Jin's forces kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The defenders were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Hana coordinated the defense from the flagship's bridge, her tactical genius becoming evident. She identified weaknesses in Wu Jin's formation and exploited them ruthlessly. She positioned ships where they would do the most damage and retreated forces before they could be destroyed. Dae-sung watched her through the medical bay's view screens during rare, quiet moments. This was Hana Sul the Sovereign, brilliant and commanding, making decisions that affected thousands of lives with each order. It was both inspiring and terrifying. Then disaster struck. Wu Jin's command ship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons, broke through the defensive line and targeted Starhold Station directly. Its main cannon began charging, energy building to devastating levels. "All ships, protect the station," Hana ordered. But there was not enough time. The cannon would fire in seconds, and nothing could stop it. Except Admiral Borum. The human admiral threw her flagship directly into the weapon's path. The elderly battlecruiser took the full force of the blast, its shields failing instantly. The ship broke apart, but its sacrifice bought precious seconds. The remaining human fleet concentrated fire on the dreadnought, overwhelming its shields and damaging the main cannon. Borum's last transmission echoed across the fleet. "Tell the Empress we do not abandon our allies. Ever." The station shook as debris from the destroyed flagship rained against the hull. Daesung steadied himself against a surgical table, his heart pounding. Around him, wounded soldiers, both human and Kale, watched the view screens in stunned silence. Hana's voice came over the intercom, thick with emotion. "Admiral Borum's sacrifice will not be forgotten. All ships converge on that dreadnought. We end this now." The combined fleet struck with renewed fury. Human ships, no longer holding back, threw themselves at Wu Jin's forces with reckless courage. Kale vessels fought with honor renewed, inspired by human bravery. The dreadnought, already damaged, found itself surrounded. But Wu Jin was not finished. He deployed boarding shuttles, sending elite assassins directly toward Starhold Station. Their target was clear. If they could not destroy the station from outside, they would infiltrate and kill Hana from within. Kyung-soo intercepted the transmission and turned to Hana. "They are targeting the station's medical bay. They know you visit there to check on the wounded." "Then we evacuate," Hana said. "No time," Kyung-soo replied. "They will arrive in 3 minutes." Hana looked at Daesung through the communication link. Their eyes met, and understanding passed between them. She was coming to the medical bay, not to evacuate, but to fight. "Hana, no," Daesung said. "Stay where you are safe." "I will not hide while humans die protecting me," Hana replied. "Besides, you are there. Someone needs to protect the healer." She arrived within 2 minutes, accompanied by a squad of royal guards. They set up defensive positions around the medical bay just as the first explosion rocked the station's hull. Wu Jin's assassins had breached. Daesung continued working on a wounded human pilot, his hands steady despite the fear coursing through him. Around him, Kale guards took positions at the entrance. Hana stood at the center, her armor gleaming, an energy sword in her hand. The assassins came through the walls, cutting through metal with plasma torches. They were fast and deadly, wearing stealth suits that made them nearly invisible. But Hana had fought these warriors before. She knew their tactics. The battle in the medical bay was brutal and close quarters. Assassins moved like shadows, striking from unexpected angles. Royal guards fell, wounded but not defeated. And in the center of it all, Hana fought with a skill that took Daesung's breath away. She moved between enemies like water flowing around rocks, her sword cutting through armor and flesh with equal ease. Every movement was efficient, wasting no energy. She protected the wounded patients and the medical staff with absolute determination. One assassin made it past the guards, heading straight for Daesung. The doctor looked up from his patient to see death approaching. He reached for a surgical laser, knowing it would not be enough. Then Hana was there, her sword intercepting the assassin's blade. They fought for 3 seconds, a blur of motion too fast for Daesung to follow. Then the assassin fell, and Hana stood over him, breathing hard. "Are you hurt?" she asked Daesung. "No, but my patient will be if I do not finish this surgery." Hana actually smiled. "Then finish it. I will keep you safe." She returned to the fight, and Daesung returned to his work. Around them, the battle raged on. But in that small space, a doctor saved lives while an empress protected them both. The last assassin fell just as reinforcements arrived. Kyung-soo and his remaining guards secured the medical bay. Outside, the space battle was reaching its climax. Wu Jin's dreadnought, surrounded and damaged, began to retreat. But Wu Jin himself was not retreating. His personal shuttle launched from the dreadnought, heading straight for Starhold Station. "He is coming here," Hana said, understanding immediately. "He is challenging me to single combat. It is the old way, the honorable way to settle disputes among Kyle leaders." "It is a trap," Kyung-soo said. "Of course it is," Hana agreed. "But if I refuse, he will call me a coward. More ships will join him. I must face him." She looked at Dae-sung. "If I fall, take care of my people. Teach them what you taught me about compassion." "You are not going to fall," Dae-sung said firmly. "You are going to win, reclaim your throne, and annoy me with your stubborn refusal to rest when injured." Hana laughed, a real laugh, bright and genuine. "I look forward to it." Wu Jin's shuttle docked with Starhold Station in the main cargo bay. By Kale tradition, combat between leaders required neutral ground and witnesses from both sides. Hana agreed to the terms, though Kyung-soo protested every step of the way. The cargo bay was massive, large enough to hold several small spacecraft. Station personnel cleared it of equipment, creating an open arena. Human soldiers and Kale warriors lined the walls, watching in tense silence. Dae-sung stood among them, his medical kit ready, but his heart heavy with worry. Wu Jin entered first. He was tall even for a Kyle, his armor ornate and clearly expensive. His face was handsome in a cold way with sharp features and eyes that held no warmth. He carried a ceremonial blade that glowed with contained energy. He saw the assembled crowd and smiled. How appropriate. Humans and Kale together, watching their would-be empress fall. This station will become a monument to my victory. Hana entered from the opposite side. She wore lighter armor now, designed for mobility rather than protection. Her sword was simpler than Wu Jin's, but well-used and perfectly balanced. She walked with confidence, every step measured and deliberate. "Wu Jin," she said, her voice carrying across the bay, "you betrayed everything the Dominion stands for. You murdered my guards, sabotaged my ship, and tried to start a war with an innocent species to cover your crimes. Today, you answer for all of it." Wu Jin laughed. "I answer to no one. I am the new sovereign, chosen by strength rather than birth. The Empire does not need a weak leader who shows mercy to inferiors." "Mercy is not weakness," Hana replied. "It is the foundation of true strength, something you will never understand." "Then let us see whose philosophy survives." They began to circle each other. The traditional duel required no signal to start. When both combatants were ready, they would engage. The tension in the cargo bay was suffocating. Wu Jin struck first, his blade moving like lightning. Hana blocked and countered, their swords meeting with a sound like thunder. Energy crackled where the weapons touched. They separated and circled again. "You have grown soft," Wu Jin said. "Time among humans has weakened you. They are a disease, teaching foolish concepts like compassion and equality." He attacked again, a series of rapid strikes that would have overwhelmed most opponents. But Hana was not most opponents. She blocked each blow, her movements efficient and precise. She was fighting defensively, studying his technique. Dae-sung watched, barely breathing. He had seen Hana fight the assassins. But this was different. Wu Jin was a master swordsman, trained since childhood in the art of combat. Every strike was calculated, every movement designed to kill. "Humans taught me something important," Hana said as she parried another attack. "They taught me that true strength comes from protecting others, not dominating them." She went on the offensive, her sword weaving patterns that seemed impossible. Wu Jin was forced back, his confident smile fading. They fought across the cargo bay, their blades meeting again and again. "They also taught me," Hana continued, "that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change everything." She pressed harder, driving Wu Jin toward the wall. He defended desperately now, his earlier confidence gone. But he was skilled and experienced. He feinted left, then struck right, his blade cutting across Hana's shoulder. She stumbled, violet blood staining her armor. Daesung stepped forward instinctively, but Kyung-soo held him back. She must finish this alone. It is the law. Wu Jin saw the wound and laughed. Still bleeding like a common warrior. Some empress you are. Hana touched her wounded shoulder and looked at the blood on her fingers. Then she smiled, and it was not a kind smile. A human healer taught me that wounds heal, that broken things can be repaired, that even the worst damage can be overcome with care and determination. She attacked with renewed intensity. Her sword moved faster than before, driven by something deeper than training or skill. She fought for every person Wu Jin had hurt, every life he had destroyed, every principle he had corrupted. Wu Jin defended frantically. His blade work was still excellent, but Hana was better. She had always been better. She had been holding back, studying him, learning his patterns. Now she used that knowledge. Their swords locked, and they stood face to face. "You were my advisor," Hana said quietly. "I trusted you. Why?" "Because you are weak," Wu Jin spat. "The Empire needs strength, not your pathetic mercy." "You are wrong," Hana said. "Mercy is the greatest strength. It is harder to show compassion than to kill, harder to build than to destroy, harder to forgive than to hate." She pushed him back and disarmed him with a move so fast that Daesung barely saw it. Wu Jin's sword clattered across the floor. He stood defenseless, shock and fear on his face. Hana held her sword to his throat. By Kael law, she had won. She could execute him now, and no one would question it. The cargo bay was silent, everyone waiting for her decision. "You deserve death," Hana said. "But I am not you. I do not kill defeated enemies when there is another choice." She lowered her sword. "Wu Jin, I strip you of rank and title. You are exiled from the Dominion, forbidden to return on pain of death. Let the galaxy see that mercy can be stronger than vengeance." Wu Jin stared at her in disbelief. "You are a fool. You should kill me while you can." "Perhaps," Hana said, "but I would rather be a fool with honor than a victor without mercy." She turned to the assembled soldiers. "The duel is ended. Let word spread throughout the Dominion. Sovereign Hana Sul lives and has defeated the usurper. All loyal Kyle are called to return to their oaths." The effect was immediate. Across Wu Jin's fleet, ships began powering down weapons and broadcasting surrender. Without their leader, without his charisma and lies, the rebellion collapsed. Ship after ship declared for Hana, their crews relieved to return to legitimate authority. Within hours, the battle was over. Wu Jin was taken into custody, to be transported to a distant world where he could harm no one. The Dominion Civil War had ended not with massive bloodshed, but with a single combat and an act of mercy. Daesung finally reached Hana in the cargo bay. She was standing alone now, her sword sheathed, her wounded shoulder still bleeding. He approached quietly. "That was well done," he said. "Was it?" Hana touched her shoulder. "Many would say I should have killed him." "Many would be wrong." Daesung opened his medical kit. "Now let me see that wound before you bleed all over your nice armor." Hana laughed and sat down on a cargo container. Daesung examined the cut. It was deep but clean, and her Kael physiology was already beginning to heal it. He cleaned it anyway and applied a bandage. "You know," he said as he worked, "I am starting to think you attract injuries on purpose just to keep me busy." "Perhaps I do," Hana said softly. "Perhaps I like having someone treat me as a patient rather than an empress." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Around them, human and Kael soldiers were celebrating, their voices mingling in shared relief. What happens now? Daesung asked. Hana sighed. Now I return to the Dominion capital. I must rebuild what Wu Jin destroyed and heal the divisions in my empire. It will take years. And what about humanity? Humanity will be granted full alliance status, Hana said. Protected trading partner, access to Dominion technology and markets, representation on the Galactic Council. Your people's courage today earned them a place among the great civilizations. Because we chose to help you. Because you chose to do the right thing, even when it was dangerous. Hana looked at him seriously. Daesung, come with me. Be my personal physician and advisor. Help me teach the Dominion what humanity understands about compassion. Daesung was quiet for a long time. It was an incredible offer, one that would change his life completely. He would see wonders beyond imagination, walk among the powerful, influence the course of an empire. But he thought about his small clinic on the colony world. He thought about the miners and settlers who depended on him. He thought about frontier medicine and making do with what you had. I am honored, he said finally, but my place is here with my people. They need doctors, especially now that we are joining the galactic community. There will be new diseases, new challenges. I can do more good here than in a palace. Hana nodded, though sadness flickered in her eyes. I understand, but promise me you will visit. The Dominion's finest healers should meet the doctor who saved their sovereign with nothing but improvisation and compassion. I promise, Daesung said, and you promise to actually rest when you are injured. I promise to try. They smiled at each other, two people from different worlds bound by a moment of kindness in a storm. 3 months later, Daesung stood in his rebuilt clinic, treating a young colonist's broken arm. The settlement had been repaired with help from Kale engineers, and new buildings were rising every day. Trade ships arrived weekly now, bringing supplies and technology that had once been impossible to obtain. A Kale transport ship landed near the clinic. Daesung looked up from his patient and smiled. He finished the bandaging and walked outside. Hana descended from the ship, wearing simpler clothes than her imperial robes. She looked tired but happy, the weight of empire still on her shoulders, but carried more easily now. Sovereign Hana Sul, Daesung said formally. Welcome to our humble colony. Just Hana, she said. At least here, let me be just Hana. They walked through the settlement together. Colonists waved respectfully but did not bow or grovel. This was human space, where an empress could be a person. How is the empire? Daesung asked. Healing, Hana said. Slowly, but healing. I am implementing reforms, trying to bring more compassion into our government. It is difficult. Centuries of tradition do not change overnight. But they do change. Yes. Hana touched her arm where the scar from the crash site wound remained, a thin line of lighter silver skin. They do change, one small kindness at a time. They reached a cliff overlooking the valley where her ship had crashed. The wreckage had been cleared away, but the impact crater remained, filled now with water and turned into a small lake. I think about that night often, Hana said. I was wounded, alone, hunted. I thought I would die. Then a stranger appeared in the rain and bandaged my arm without asking who I was or what I could offer in return. I saw someone who needed help, Daesung said simply. And in that moment, you changed the course of an empire. Hana looked at him. Do you understand what your kindness accomplished? You did not just save my life. You saved billions by preventing a tyrant from seizing permanent power. You brought humanity into the galactic community. You reminded an entire civilization what true strength looks like. Daesung shook his head. I just did what any decent person would do. No, Hana said firmly. That is what makes it remarkable. You believe compassion is ordinary, that helping others is normal. But in a galaxy full of species that value power and dominance above all else, your ordinary kindness is extraordinary. They stood together on the cliff, looking at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. Somewhere up there, the Kale Dominion spread across hundreds of worlds. Somewhere up there, humans were taking their first steps as a recognized galactic civilization. And it all began with a doctor who saw a wounded stranger and chose to help, asking nothing in return. "I brought you something," Hannah said, reaching into her coat. She pulled out a small medallion on a chain, its surface engraved with intricate symbols. "This is the Star of Compassion, the highest civilian honor in the Dominion. Only 3 have ever been awarded in our entire history. Now there are 4. She placed it in Dae-sung's hand. The metal was warm, and the symbols glowed faintly in the fading light. "I cannot accept this," Dae-sung said. "You must," Hannah replied, "because it represents something important. It tells the story of a healer who treated a wound without knowing it would heal an empire. It reminds everyone who sees it that the smallest acts of kindness can have the largest consequences." Dae-sung looked at the medallion, then at Hannah. "Thank you for everything." "No," Hannah said softly. "Thank you for seeing me, for helping me, for teaching me what truly matters." The sun set over the colony, painting the sky in brilliant colors. An empress and a doctor stood together, watching the day end and thinking about the future. Tomorrow, Hannah would return to her empire and its endless challenges. Tomorrow, Dae-sung would return to his clinic and its steady stream of patients. But tonight, they were simply 2 friends sharing a moment of peace in a vast and often uncaring universe. And in the clinic's records, forever preserved, was a single entry. Patient treated for severe laceration, arm. Prognosis, full recovery. Payment, none required. That simple note, written in a doctor's practical hand, told the story of how compassion changed the galaxy. How one person choosing to help another, expecting nothing in return, had shifted the course of history. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology or weapons or even courage. It was the simple, radical belief that helping others was its own reward. That mercy was not weakness, but the highest form of strength. And in the end, that belief had saved an empire and earned humanity a place among the stars. This was the essence of humanity. This was what it meant to be human. This was HFY,